So there's going to be a few ways for you to kind of attack the idea of what you're going to be doing for this Notan project. But the very first thing you're going to do is you're just going to go ahead and open up a new file. I would recommend that you make a file that's a little bit larger than what you think. We definitely don't want to do something small like a 5 by 5. But I'm going to go ahead and maybe I'm going to start off with a 10 by 10. 300 resolution. You can see that the presets here, again, don't forget, make sure that this is in inches. If it's not, you want to change it to inches because a 10 pixel document is very different than a 10-inch document. 300 resolution. If you go lower on resolution, some people accidentally leave it at something like 72. When you're working with text, it does look very choppy. You get really poor edges on your text, so you want to watch out for that, okay? And then your color mode should be standard at RGB color 8-bit, and then you've got your background color as white. So that's where you are when you're first starting. You're going to go ahead and press OK, and you've got a starting image here. Now, I'm going to show you how to put some guidelines in. Guidelines are like using a ruler on your paper, but it's a ruler that will disappear whenever you tell it to. You can remove them, and they will never print on your finished work. But what it will do is it will help divide up your image so that you have a nice quality, nicely laid out image. So when you go to View and New Guide, you've got an option to do a vertical or a horizontal guideline. And you have, it says position 0 inches. A lot of people are like, okay, well, how big? So if I need one at the middle, it's got to be at 5 inches. No, just go ahead and put in a percent. 50% on the vertical, and it'll pop that light blue line in. And then you're going to go to View, New Guide. Let's put a horizontal one in, 50%. And now you have dead center. You know exactly where that's at. You can add more guides as needed. So you can go File, New Guide, and let's say you want a 25% on the vertical. And then you can go View, New Guide, and you can go at a 75% on the vertical. You can see you've got it laid out like that. I'm going to go ahead and put some new guides in for the horizontal. I'm going to go with 25%. I'm going to break it up into quarters. Make sure you don't forget to change that to the 75. We need 75%. Okay? So this is nicely broken up. And what you're going to be starting to do is you're going to start with a new layer. You're going to want to go ahead and start with a new layer right over here on your layer menu or your layer palette. You can do this little icon at the bottom, looks like a folded post-it note, or you can say Layer, New, and Layer. Shift-Control-N if you prefer keyboard shortcuts. And then you're going to go ahead and begin working on this one. Let's say I'm going to click there, and then I'm going to just rename that as black. That's my starting layer. You do not want to do this first part directly on your background because you cannot you can't cut away from your background and move it around. You can't erase from your background. So you're going to see if you do it right on this background layer, you're going to have some issues that we'll have to fix up. But you'll learn really quick. Make sure that this is the layer that's highlighted in blue. The very first thing you're going to do is you're going to let's just do a basic one. Let's go ahead and stretch a box in that upper left-hand quadrant. And then I'm going to go ahead and paint bucket, making sure I'm on black. You can click right here. This is default for black and white. I'm going to go ahead and click on black. So once I've clicked on black, I now have that filled with black. At that stage, I need to get away from those crawling ants. So we've talked about the crawling ants being a selection. I'm going to go back and say select and deselect or Control D. Now I'm all set with that. Now I've got some options, okay? When I go to the text tool, because we're doing initials on this particular one, when I go to the text tool, what you're going to find is that your computer may pause for a second. I want you to make sure you give it time to work because the text tool is kind of, it takes a lot of power from your computer. But you also have some masking. There's some things for you to understand about it. I want to make sure that you do understand that there's a few ways of working on this particular project, okay? So if I just do a regular horizontal type tool, I'm going to go ahead. I like to drag a text box in. Not everyone that you will find will drag a text box, but I like it. It just matches with what I like. I want to switch my color to white. I'm going to go ahead and either press this arrow right here to flip it, or get used to pressing the X key on your keyboard. The X key on your keyboard will flip those colors for you and put your foreground color in your background, etc. Okay? And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to select kind of a chunky font. I actually really like this one. And then I'm going to make sure I've got a larger size for right now. At least something where I can see if I put it on the cursor, I'm going to see that they get a little bit bigger. And I did not, there we go. There we go. I'm going to go ahead and choose a capital J. And right now, right here, for some reason it didn't change my font color. It should have put it in my foreground, but something happened. You can see it's coming in as black. I'm going to just click there, select white. You see that's my new color, and say OK. And there it is right there. Okay? I can click off of that layer, and I've got a J there. Now, you could sit here and you could resize that text box until the cows come home. Problem is, you may not get the perfect size. And actually, to get back in that text box, you want to click, double click on this T of your layer menu. You'll see that it'll highlight it. I could even put JG in there right now. Again, click off of it and you can see that I've accepted it. I can then transform this. I'm going to do a Control T. And I'm going to just drag it as if it were an object. And I'm going to use this, the boxes, the grid that I put on there, and my keyboard to nudge it in little places to make sure that I can fill that quarter that I like. Now, for some of you, you may actually fill this whole thing. But for my design, for my aesthetic, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to make it fill this particular space right here. Okay? I can press the Enter key, and what that has done is it has actually put on this particular image. It's ready to go. So I have this JG located in here. I can then do something like copy this and flip it over to this side. So I'm going to copy this layer. So you're going to learn a lot of different functions. And to copy this layer, you can press Control J. It'll make a duplicate. So on your keyboard, that CTRL button on the lower left-hand corner, that's a Control key. I can also do Layer and Duplicate Layer. And it'll duplicate layer. And I would just say here, I would just say OK for right now. And I could call this JG White. And I could call this JG Black. From here, again, I can highlight that color. I could change my font to black. I could move it over. Now, the one thing that's missing on this is that it's not mirror flipped. Okay, if you notice, what's reversed here should be in reverse here. I'm sorry, what's here should be reversed here. So if I need to go up here, I can edit transform, and then I can flip it on the horizontal. When I flip it on the horizontal, again, I'm on my move tool, that's the top tool. I'm going to then use my keyboard and I'm going to look really close, and I'm going to make sure that the parts that I need are aligned. To finish this out, again, Control plus to zoom in. It's these little fine changes that will really make this complete. So you do want to make sure that it's there. And you can see right now that if I double click on the hand or Control minus, you can see I've got that reversal over there. I can come back onto the black layer. Let's say I'm done adding my text. I put my initials in there and I want to start cutting some things out. So we're going to get to the cutting out of those things. So you've got a few options. First of all, you've got a lasso tool and you've got a polygonal lasso tool. The lasso tool, think about it as kind of freeform. And the polygonal lasso tool is more edgy. It's more geometric. So I'm going to start with a polygonal lasso tool. I'm going to do this. On the black layer, I double check I'm on the black layer. I am going to click, click. Oh, let's go there. Click, click. And then I'm going to come across with one last click. I want you to notice that little tiny circle. Again, you might not see it till this video pops up on your screen, but when you get close enough at the end of a selection, right by your tool on the screen, there's this little teeny tiny circle. You see it's gone? It's there. It's gone? It's there. When you get close enough to your starting click, that says, hey, you're close enough. Now if you click, it'll give me crawling ants. Okay? Now what I can do is I can now take that on the move tool and I can move that out. I've taken it off of that black and I've moved it out. I can also come in now and I can flip that particular piece on the horizontal. Same way I flipped my text. And then I'm going to go ahead and say select and deselect. I now have that mirror flipped image. Okay? I'm going to show you the lasso tool, the regular lasso tool. For the regular lasso tool, I do like to get close. You're going to want to get close to it so that when you cut something out, you can really see what it is you're cutting. I'm going to cut a piece from this edge, okay? So what you can do is you can almost draw with it. Let's say that that was perfect. It's far from perfect, but, you know, we're fine. I'm going to zoom back out. I'm going to grab that with a move tool. I'm going to move that part over. And then again, edit, transform, and flip on the horizontal. I can then nudge this into place. I'm going to use my keyboard and my arrows on the keyboard to place that exactly where it needs to be. And then I can select and deselect. So again, the part that I took from here is now coming into here. All right. Now I can also move into these tools right here, my Marquee Tools. I can choose a rectangular or an elliptical Marquee tool. Same way that you guys used them last week. You can go ahead and you can use your Shift key. You can grab a nice circle here. Again, we're still on that black layer. I can now move that. Now because it's a circle, I don't need to flip it. So that one won't need to get flipped because it's perfect. You don't need to flip that one at all. Now if you're a real stickler and you want to make sure that it's perfectly level, literally just use your keyboard. It might take a minute. Use your right arrow and literally just sit there and kind of hold it down and then pick up your finger every so often so it registers to make sure it's nice and level with that previous section. I think that's looking pretty good. And then again, select and deselect or Control D. But you can see that you're starting to move these things around and you're starting to give yourself the opportunity to add some really cool stuff happening. Okay? So let's add one more thing. I'm just going to add in a square. Let's add a square right here. Now, it's not a perfect square, so I'm going to deselect. I forgot I wanted a perfect square. I'm going to hold that Shift key. Now, if you notice that when you put it down, it's in the wrong place, before you move to your move tool, you're going to go ahead and you're going to just use your keyboard arrows to put it into place. Then you go to your move tool, and then you could go ahead and move that one over. And I'm just going to quickly move that guy over here. I'm going to nudge it up just a little bit to make sure it's nice and even. And then I'm going to select and deselect. The next video will show you how you select all of these things and then flip that on the vertical and then you transform it again. So we're going to show you how to merge all this onto one, how to make this fill this area at the bottom. So notice I'm doing a left and right, or you can do a top and bottom, but you don't have to do these as well. I'll show you a quicker way of adding those in later. So again, you're going to be doing two squares. You're going to be incorporating your initials as well as utilizing some of the other mark making tools or shape making tools, I should say, in order to put some things in there. I'll show you a few other options as we go through, but I just want you to start there. There are some other options for those of you who are a little bit more, I think, advanced in your selections. You do have some tools inside of here that you could use. You may want to look into some of those. Again, for those of you that have Photoshop experience, try to incorporate some of those. You may find some stars in there or some diamond shapes, etc. So those are kind of ways to advance your learning. Turn to the person next to you if they need as well. I will be around to check on your progress, but do not forget when you are done, these are going to be saved. File, save as, and again, until your flash drive gets here, make sure you're getting those flash drives in. You're going to go ahead and make sure it's on your desktop. You can call it your name, Notan 1. So this is our first Notan. You're going to save it, and then we'll pick back up on this tomorrow.